first came to Brighton to practice, we weren't doing anything online, we were faxing. But anyway, there were 6 full-time judges for family cases. There are now 2, and the courts are closed. So successive governments around the world are not really interested in funding courts. America's the same, Australia's the same. So people are being left to their own devices. So I suppose I'm wondering, I want to ask you two questions. One is, how do you think we can, as practitioners of the law, or as with you moving up, how can we deal with the collapse of the court? And secondly, do you think, these are big questions, by the way, so take your time. Do you think AI are going to take our jobs?
I think for the first question, I think like what it's going to do is it's going to force people to come and like seek out their own roots and advocate for themselves. And we've seen that a lot in Canada, is because legal representation and legal aid just doesn't provide adequate support. We've seen people like take it upon themselves to self-represent themselves, and that hasn't necessarily gone very well because they unfortunately like are not qualified. So what happens is we get these people that are not qualified going to court to self-represent themselves, and the judge is taking more time to tell them like, hey, that's not part of procedure, or hey, yeah, you don't have to stand for this, instead of actually dealing with the legal issues itself, which there's already such a backlog in the court systems as just on its own. So what it's been forcing is like other practices to emerge and kind of take over. So like restorative justice is really big in Vancouver because we have a really big Indigenous population.
Yes.
So practices like that, like alternative resolutions, mediations, like routes like that are getting more and more popular as time goes on, which kind of takes the burden off the court system, but also it allows like for a deeper understanding and like a deeper resolution than what can come out of just like a simple court judgment. Like that's why restorative justice is like a really big thing in like dealing with like young offenders, or like in family law, and like a lot of like sexual offense cases. So I see I'm assuming that things like that would come out more. But at the same time, because of that, like because those processes are so complex and so deep, AI wouldn't have the capacity to undergo those processes. So I don't see it like impacting jobs in that way, but I see like a lot of like other things being streamlined and use processes like AI. For example, like things like filling out forms, like finding like electronic like statutes and like articles and whatnot, and like the research part of it, I can see it being more streamlined like as technology develops, but I don't think it could ever replace like a complex process.
Thanks, Monica. Jasmine?
What about you, Jasmine?
I think with courts shutting down, I feel like only the people who can, or who have the money and have something to fall back on, will be able to survive. And that's usually, I guess, the people who traditionally are barristers, who we know who they are. So I think that there will be less, I guess, mothers, ethnic minorities, or people from working class backgrounds, in the profession, and I think that's bad for representation, because I think that the bar needs to represent people in society, and not people from 50, 60 years ago. You know, it's sad because I don't want to see it go back to like what it was. But I think that that's a real possibility. With AI, same as Monica, I don't think that AI systems have the same sort of cognitive reasoning skills. And also, I know you shouldn't bring emotion into law, or they say you shouldn't, but I just don't think that AI or, you know, computers will be able to do things the way that we do them. So I'm not sure that we will be replaced by artificial intelligent machines or anything like that, at least in our time.
Okay.
Thanks, Renee.
There you are, 2 optimistic, almost completely optimistic takes on it. Actually, it's quite interesting. There's an old saying that whenever the money leaves a profession, so do the men. So, and actually the privileged. So actually there might be more scope for minority and protected characteristic people to come through, because they'll all bugger off. Anyway, don't write that down if it's...